Hi guys, got another screencast for you regarding the roles that we are setting up for each of our Lambda functions. Now, when we first created our put task Lambda function, I suggested you create a put task role and use the simple microservice role that was suggested by Amazon. Let's let's take a look in more detail as to what that role actually looks like. If we go to Identity and Access Management, click on Roles, and click on our Put Task role, you'll see that it attaches what are referred to as permission policies. There's one for the logging called AWS Lambda Basic Execution role, which allows it to create log groups and create log streams and put events into those streams. And this permission is granted to our Lambda function called putTask. This is good. This is pretty much the minimum amount of access it needs to do logging. If we look at the other policy that's attached, we'll see that there's a policy that allows our uh, function to go to the DynamoDB and delete items, get items, put items, scan, and even update. And specifically, it can do it against all tables. What we'd like to do is apply something called the principle of least privilege. And the principle of least privilege is the idea that you only give it the permissions to do what it needs to do. So in this case, we'd like to come back over here and consider, should our put allow us to get, delete, scan, and so on? In this case, we probably want to limit it down to just the functions that it's allowed to do. So we can click Edit Policy, and it brings up an editor for us, or we could just jump right over to the JSON. And in the JSON, we know that a put should not be deleting items, it should not actually be getting any items, or scanning any items. We may want to remove the put item since we're technically using the update or update item function, which really leaves us with this. Lastly, the table, we don't want it to access any table, so we could actually just change this to our tasks table. Once we're done with these changes, we click Review Policy. It shows us the information we're allowed to do. We save changes. And now, as with everything, we want to go back to our Lambda function and make sure that it still works. So I'll select to update a task in my list of tests, and I'll click Test, and it should still come back successfully able to create a task or update a task. In the event that you have a problem, you need to go back and review your settings here in the policy and make sure that you did not uh, break the policy in any way. And my policy has disappeared. So let's cancel. And let's come back here and refresh the page. And click on that policy. And click, aha, edit policy. So we had a little visual problem with Amazon there where it wasn't refreshing and showing us our changes. So I'll go ahead and leave that in the video because you might run into the same sort of problem. All right, well, that's it. I'll conclude by saying that you should look at each one of your Lambda functions that you create. You should identify which features you're using. In this case, I'm using update or update item, and allow those and nothing else. This would apply to your get, which would use a scan, your put, which would use an update, your post, which would use a put into the table, and your delete, which would use a .client.delete.